I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. Poppin' tan model BC couldn't brag 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 enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain.
And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me is my co-host Jim Zero.
Hey, Bob, lots to talk about. Even though it was a light week on the schedule, a lot of big news happened in the Horizon last week, and I think it's time we jump right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, you can find on Twitter at Jim Zero. You can find us on the web at horizonroundtable.com. You can find links to all of our social sites and sites where podcasts are available at horizonroundtable.com/subscribe. Become a patron, patreon.com/horizonroundtable. Get early access to the power rankings, which, by the way, I'm not doing next week. I'm doing the week after, but you'll get early access to whatever I'm writing. Plus exclusive content too there, so for as little as $1 a month. So go to patreon.com/Horizon Roundtable, and of course you can always donate to us and our writers at horizonroundtable.com/donate. Yeah, there was surprisingly quite a bit of things coming out of this week, even though it was a rather light schedule for finals week. So let's get into it.
Where should we begin? I know where I want to begin, but I'll let you kind of steer the ship here.
You know what? I would like to talk about Green Bay first.
A man after my own heart. Let's go.
5-win Green Bay.
Well, say that louder and slower, please.
Yes, I'm gonna need to for Drew Gentile over at Mid Major Madness, who thinks that Green Bay won 5 games last year. You didn't win 5 games last year. You only won 4. 5-win Green Bay.
5-win Green Bay gets a win to, I hate to say there's any must-win games in December, but 2 teams at 0-2 who are picked 10th and 11th in the league, playing in the second conference game, or their third conference game. It didn't feel like it's not a must-win, but it felt like it had a little extra pressure on it. And the team getting that win, in this case, Green Bay won that game 85-75. It was almost like a pressure release. And conversely for IU Indy, it's like, all right, if we can't get the only team we're picked ahead of in the preseason poll, where are we going to get a win? So it's like a tale of 2 teams coming out of that. Even though the difference is one team's 1-2 and the other's 0-3, it feels a lot bigger to me, at least, to be 1-2.
Yeah, but remember Green Bay was within a hair of being 2-1, as you recall. But yeah, good news.
Yeah, They definitely were within a hair of that, but unfortunately, they did not have Seth Hubbard on their team, and they did not get the. Well, we'll get into that, but what I'm saying is they didn't get the big
Hubbard's
player.
not going to be on anybody's team for the rest of the season, but
but in this game, I thought in the IU Indy game, Green Bay did a really good job of playing the game at their pace. I mean, the final score is 85-75. And these aren't necessarily Green Bay doesn't score a ton of points because they play more methodically, and Green Bay committed a bunch of turnovers, but a lot of them were dead ball. So IU Indy couldn't convert those into transition points. The transition points in the game were relatively even. I thought LeBron Thomas, who hasn't played a consistent role for Green Bay, and I had picked him, I was very high on LeBron. I thought he was just a really steady ball handler and decision maker. And you actually saw Preston Riedinger kind of make sure to take over the inbounding and then get the ball to LeBron so LeBron can make really good decisions against the press. And he didn't have he had 1 turnover in the game, but that was in the half court. He tried to hit Mac Rec in a back cut and didn't get it. But he didn't have a single turnover against the press. And Green Bay, who was not a good rebounding team, was +7 on the glass in that game. And Green Bay, who is a good free throw shooting team, was 26-30, or can be a good free throw shooting team, was 26-31 from the line. So a really big win for Green Bay. To kind of you kind
of paper it over to the fact that Preston Riedinger, CJ O'Hara, and LeBron Thomas, they all scored 20 points.
A 3 set of 20 pieces. Yeah. And that's like really good balanced scoring. They almost like it's like they're having FOMO over what's going on with Purdue Fort Wayne and having a big three, and they're like, you know what, the hell with that. We're going to be our own big three today, and I
I
love it.
mean, why not? Why not? So conversely, we got to talk about IU, and again, IU Indy. The cornerstone of the system is their ability to shoot 3-pointers, and they just could not do it.
26%.
25%.
Yep.
27%. Yeah. That's
And they
that's not
didn't.
gonna get it done at all.
No, 39% field goal, 26% 3-point field goal. I think they were conversely, they gave up 43 for 3-point field goals to Green Bay, who had not been shooting the ball consistently, and 48% overall shooting to Green Bay. So, the only thing that kept them in that game is that, and even though they got totally out rebounded, they converted 8 of their offensive rebounds into baskets. They got 16 second chance points. I mean, other than that, they didn't do anything to stay in that game, and still had a chance to win because Green Bay was making a few choices at times. And I think another thing is we had talked about Woodard, and he was being a facilitator. He only had 3 assists, so they didn't get the turnovers in the live ball. They didn't hit the three. Their main playmaker, didn't get shut down, but they made life a little more difficult for him. And that's. You're not going to win when you're not winning any of these statistical categories.
Well, the other thing too, and this is kind of the problem, I feel like they have, because of the way that the scheme is set up for IU Indy, they've got this first unit coming out, and then they got this second unit, and it's like the problem was this time around, the second unit, you had Jackson Edwards get 10 points, and then it just kind of petered out. As far as that second unit is concerned. And you got to have additional scorers on that second unit. I mean, the first unit had Micah Davis and Kyler D'Agostino both score 17. That's fine, but you got to have more prolific scorers in that second unit, and that didn't happen this time because the shooting was not great because McGuire Mitchell he only hit one shot. He was 1 for 7 during the game. That is very un-McGuire Mitchell-like, and that is going to be a problem if you got only a second unit where only one of those guys is going to be able to come in every 2 or 3 minutes and produce, and that's just kind of what happened. And it seems to be that seems to be kind of a running theme, especially in the last 3 games for IU Indy. It was definitely glaring against Youngstown State, but it's definitely pretty. It was certainly prominent in this game against Green Bay too.
And honestly, I think that should be expected. I feel like a lot of people had a little bit higher hopes for IU Indy this year because they have so much respect for the new head coach.
Yeah.
And the success that he had. But this is a team that's put together in the end of May. I mean, so this is not, they had a bunch of guys that he knows from the D2 level. They brought in some other pieces, but this is not a team that, was put together in March or earlier. This is a team that was put together in May. And so to not have the depth that they need consistently, that really shouldn't surprise anybody. I think, like I said, I just think people had so much respect for Coach Hollett that they were willing to, kind of say, hey, okay, this guy's a winner. He's going to keep winning. And, going forward, I still think that's probably a very good assessment. But right now, they're taking on some water right now, and they're going to have to, figure that out.
A little bit.
And yeah.
All right. Since we alluded to Seth Hubbard once, let's allude to him again. He's out for the season for Milwaukee. Big blow to them.
Yeah, losing Seth Hubbard.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think torn labrum is what's being reported on the message board world. First of all, I believe
it was the shoulder injury. I think Bart Lundy had confirmed that as well. So that's definitely out there. And boy, they definitely could have used him against Indiana State because they only lost by 2. Oh.
Yeah, they lost by 2, and when you think about this, I heard in the clips from the press conference after the game, and Coach Lundy had alluded to, like, every statistical category that they try to win, they did win. They had fewer turnovers. They had more
they only had 6
rebounds.
turnovers in this game. Yeah.
Yep. Versus 15. But the stat that he didn't talk about is they shot 36% from the field, 19% from three, and Indiana
Ugh.
State was 56% and 33% respectively. And so
They
Indiana
only hit
State,
one 3-pointer in the second half. They were 1 for 12, man. Ugh,
uh,
that hurts.
Namar Aguilar, a player that, had tons of preseason pub and hype behind him. He went 0 for 10, and on the season he's averaging 10 points per game, but it's on
Yeah.
33% shooting, and it's just wildly inconsistent. So with Hubbard out, and first of all, Seth Hubbard was an amazing player. I hope he comes back and stays in the Horizon League next year when he's healthy. It's such a
Hmm.
blow to lose a guy like that. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
super athletic. He was having a great shooting season. I mean, that's just such a big blow. That's their second major blow of the season, losing John Lovelace before. So,
Oh yeah.
just
This is they're starting to run out of dudes.
yeah, they still played without Hubbard. They still played 9 or 10 guys.
Yeah.
I think 9 guys got a bunch of minutes. But what they're going to need to find is defensively, are they going to be able to dig in here at some point in time? Like, there's getting turnovers and there's being good at defense.
Yeah.
And I learned this lesson a long time ago as a basketball fan when I was a high schooler. I loved Glenn Big Dog Robinson. And I
Hmm.
used to justify Big Dog's defense because he'd get like a steal and a half or two a game. But
Sure.
objectively, he was a bad defender who would just get like a lazy reach around or whatever and knock a ball out and get a steal. And so you can't be fooled by statistical categories like, did you get 10 steals or something like that? It doesn't mean you're necessarily a great defensive team. Are you, in their case for Milwaukee, they're a great rebounding team. So if they're giving up
Yeah.
56% shooting and they're not giving up any rebounds,
Yeah.
there's like, I didn't see all of the game, but there's a disconnect there that needs to get figured out for them. And you know what? And that could be one of those cases too, the old saying that, your defense is always better when your offense is better. And, because guys will play more
It's
defense when
entirely
they're making,
possible, yeah, especially in this particular case as well. I mean,
yeah. And when they're
I
shooting 36%, it's pretty easy to see if guys' defensive effort might slide from there.
you know, I'm looking at the statistics. Like Faison Fields had 7 offensive rebounds. 7. I mean,
How many points did he have?
he had 16. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he had 16 to go along with those 8 rebounds, and Danilo Jovanovic also had 16. And he had 9 rebounds. So you know, it's good that those guys are playing, but to your point, they gotta get their depth is hurting. I don't think it's complete. I don't think it's I don't think they're completely dead in the water per se. I mean, I do still like the fact that they got 2 freshmen, Stevie Elam and Josh Dixon, who they can turn to. I mean, Stevie, for all the terrible 3-point shooting that Milwaukee had in this, throughout the game, um, they only hit 5 3-pointers the entire game. Stevie Elam hit 4 of them. So,
Yeah.
so say what you will about the entire team's 3-point shooting. Stevie Elam wasn't the problem here.
No. Yeah. Think about when you talked about D'Lo and Faison. So those guys don't do any damage outside the paint. So
Yeah.
those guys scored 32 points combined.
Hmm.
The team shot 36%, and those guys are shooting from 2 feet away. Like,
Yeah.
that tells you a lot about where the struggle is for Milwaukee. And to your point, okay, Stevie Elam's knocking down some jumpers, but nobody else is able to do anything.
And that's a
Was able to
problem.
do.
Yeah.
Yep, you can't win a game
I
like
mean,
that.
no, I mean, between Isaiah Dorcius and Amar Aguilar, 2 for 20. And we know Amar Aguilar didn't score any, so you can pretty much narrow it down where the other two, where the 2 buckets came from.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so that's gonna be. I think to your point, I think the perimeter is gonna be the perimeter is gonna be a big question mark moving forward. So
Well,
that that is definitely something.
if there's a coach in the league, there's a lot of good coaching in this league. I'd be willing to bet that Coach Lundy hasn't slept for the past 28 hours since this game was played out, and he's just probably thinking about it, working it out. And you're not going to bet against these guys. Like they've
No.
been down before, but they do play hard. They're going to figure out a way to get it going. And sometimes when you start with so much on your roster, it's hard to make it all work and fit together. And not that you want to have injuries or anything, but like sometimes it just forces guys to get better in their role because now they know what they're going to get. Like now that, I'm the last man standing. So if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And so perhaps this will be a rallying point for the team, for a team, especially with so much preseason hope and hype.
Yeah, and they're going to need it too because because right in front of them are you know Youngstown State. I mean, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them because they just beat the crap out of a non D1 team. But I do want to talk about Robert Morris beating constant Horizon League tormentor Toledo. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yes, that was good for the Horizon League. And you have in that particular game a tale of two halves because they won that game by 5, but at one
Yeah,
point they're down 21 points.
yeah.
That is
They're
massive.
making us nervous over there. But they made it. They got through it. Well, it was Toledo, man. You knew Toledo was just going to make everybody's lives miserable, and of course, one of the people that was making lives miserable at the UPMC Event Center is ex Horizon Leaguer Sean Craig, who has been doing this to a lot of Horizon League schools lately. It's like his revenge tour.
Yeah, he's gotten plenty of opportunities with Toledo as they've played so many of the teams in the league. But when I think about that game, Deshaun Good 17-8, Vargas
Mhm.
16-5 with 5 assists with only 1 turnover. I
Yeah.
mean, the new guys for RMU definitely stepped up, and they had which of their main guys was it? Livingston, I think. One of their main
No,
guys was
yeah,
out.
yes. Darius Livingston. He was a late scratch. I mean, a really late scratch. I mean, I guess he was ready to go until he wasn't. So they had to play without him too. So that was, and he's been really good off the bench. So that really hurt them. Definitely could have used him. Definitely could have used him down the stretch of this one, but they were able to go through. You talked about Vargas and Good. Let's not forget the guy who actually is the only holdover, Ryan Prather, who had 17 and 10, and definitely and it seems that every time that Robert Morris needs some help, Ryan Prather is certainly there to be of assistance, which is exactly what this team needs. It needs that veteran guy. He's the only one coming up and stepping up and coming through.
Yeah, if you think about like we've talked about this with Robert Morris before and finding different ways to win. They were only 5 of 21 on three,
Yeah.
and but they were plus 11 on the glass. And that is their calling card, best rebounding team in the league. I'll stand by that. And they just figured out a way to get themselves together after a shaky start and take down the former number one team in the power rankings.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh wait. No wait. Youngstown State is still top in the power rankings.
No, no,
The,
I thought at
the,
one point we were kiddingly had Toledo at the top of the heap a few weeks
Oh
ago.
yeah, they need to go away. Go away. You are go back to the back. You and Eastern Michigan both.
Can
Which
we?
by the way, thank you
Can,
Purdue Fort Wayne. We can segue to them beating them.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I want to talk about because you think about in that game against Eastern Michigan. And Eastern Michigan obviously has beaten Oakland. They've beaten Cincinnati. So this is a team with a lot of ability. And yet, at at Fort Wayne in the Coliseum, they lost by 15 to Fort Wayne, 80 to
Yeah,
65.
we did.
Um, you know, both teams shot the ball very well in that game.
Oh yeah,
But the difference,
but Purdue Fort
uh,
Wayne shot way better.
and more free throws. They were 19 and 23 on free throws. EMU was only 7 of 15. So you're talking about a 15-point game. There's 12 points right there at the line. Even though both teams, I believe, shot 50% for the game and like mid 30s from deep. So,
Sure.
and then the other thing that you had, I alluded to it before, but the big three for Fort Wayne, that backcourt had 56 of their 80 points.
Yep.
But here's something like we talked about Fort Wayne with the defense and trying to get turnovers, but I just really thought their ball screen defense was super energetic. Like they made life really hard for Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan
They
could
really
do
did.
anything. It was a great effort. Like it wasn't a great, necessarily like great statistical defensive game in terms of like, oh well, we had forced 25 turnovers and we turned those into 30 fast break points or something. No, it was just like, hey, they just made EMU work and they couldn't.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was an awesome game to kind of to watch.
Yeah, and then Purdue Fort Wayne follows that up against Detroit Mercy. But man, I'm telling you, Detroit Mercy definitely was they were close. They had it. It's like in the second half it was the Tyler Spratt show for them because that dude could not miss. Luckily for them, yeah, he did miss a couple of key ones because it was a 81-77 game, and Detroit Mercy made them work for it for sure.
So
And
well, I was gonna say, what stood out to me is they only had two turnovers, Fort Wayne. So they
yeah,
overcame a negative 10 on the
two.
glass. I mean, that's amazing, especially at the speed they want to play and, the amount of like guard play that they have. It's not like, they're walking the ball up and then dumping it in the post. And, they're playing a style that, you're going to make some mistakes at this level with. But
Mhm.
only two turnovers. They were negative 10 on the glass, which has been a concern for them in the past. And they were 14-27 on free throws. So in a 4-point game is a game where they probably, if they're not protecting the ball in this game, they're probably not winning the game.
Yeah.
And and
Corey
they
had not had a very bad game at the line. He was only 3 for 8. It was not a pretty sight for him. And yeah, so but to your point, I mean the three and the 3-point shooting was certainly left a lot to be desired, especially when you had a Detroit Mercy team who did considerably be better in the especially in the second half from beyond the arc. And this is a Detroit Mercy team who has really struggled from beyond the arc. And they just can't, I mean, like I said, Tyler Spratt was hitting them from everywhere.
So
And
interesting about Spratt is that he was 5 of 10 in the game, 4 of 9 from deep. He had 0 points at halftime, and he
yeah,
ended up with
exactly.
he ended up
All
with
those
15
15
and
points are
five.
from the second half. Yeah, they
Yep,
absolutely
he ended
are.
up with 15 and 5. And Keyshawn Fisher, excuse me,
Yeah,
had 14 and 9, and he was 2 for 4 from deep, 5 of 11 from the field. And then Nadu was, I thought, an impact for them. Nadu came out. He had the first 7 points for Detroit, and Fort Wayne had
yeah, he did.
no answers for him at all. But
Yeah,
he got in foul trouble and came out. And then when he came back in, he scored right away again. And you're like, okay, here we go. And then but he just never was able to get in the flow of the game because of fouls. And
yeah,
Detroit didn't have that many turnovers. They only had 9, but some
yeah,
of them really showed their inexperience. I mean, there was just some balls that were like to the scorer's table. Like, who are you passing that to? They just
yeah.
had a lot of like their turnovers were like the really head scratching kind. It wasn't even like they were pressured. You're like, what the hell was that? Like just I had a lot of moments where I was like, thank God I'm not a Detroit Mercy fan right now because as much as I
You'd be
loved
pulling your hair
watching,
out right now.
I don't
Well,
have
I
hair,
think
but I would be pulling at my scalp. I really would because
yeah.
it was so bad. Yeah, but the one takeaway I did have with the youth movement for Detroit,
Hmm.
Fisher and Spratt, those guys are size appropriate. They're
Yeah.
athletic. They can
Hmm.
shoot. I really hope that they can hold on to those guys for a while and continue to develop them because you look at guys like that 6'5" at the guard and 6'7" on the
Yeah.
wing, and you go, man, those are some pieces. Those are some
Yeah.
guys that like.
Yeah, and I think and the other and yeah, and it's just and it's funny because this was and it seemed like Coach Monty was trying to adjust to to kind of tailor the game approach to what Purdue Fort Wayne was trying to do because this is actually one of those rare games where we did not see a lot of Lance Stone. We saw a lot more of Fisher and we saw a lot more of Fisher and Spratt, which in this case definitely helped a lot. Um, and I think that was definitely beneficial for them. One of the things to your point about Fisher being the 6'7" guy, I think that also and the way that Fisher had performed, he had had 9 rebounds, and he kind of was the complement in this particular game at least to Legend Jeter as opposed to London Maiden, who we have been seeing recently. Although not in this game, he was limited to 2 minutes, which I was kind of surprised to see. But I mean, with Keyshawn Fisher doing what he was doing, it makes kind of sense that he was kind of the guy they went to.
Well, and it felt like, London Maiden and Legend Jeter, like those guys are going to operate inside down low, and there's really
Yeah,
no need. When you think about Fort Wayne's style of play, where they've got 3 guards, they've got a floor spacing big man in Max Nelson. They don't really have a need, to play a a slower, bigger post player because you can't switch on the guards. You can't, you know, he's not going to be able to extend his defense. So I could see maybe a little bit why we didn't see London Maiden as much as we
Yeah.
have previously. And then you're getting mega production from your young guys as well. Yeah. So, you know, I totally agree with that. But it's you know, for Detroit, I had alluded to it on our last episode that, hey, okay, it's one thing to beat Cleveland State and it's another thing to beat IU Indy, but there aren't moral victories in the Horizon League, or at least there shouldn't be. But you could at least look at this game and say, hey, they got down double digits in the second half and still only lost by 4 on the road to a team that's actually playing really good basketball right now.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And so there's a little bit of, you know, there's a light there for Mercy, for Detroit Mercy, and for anybody that may have originally picked them second in the conference.
I mean, they're not making me look completely crazy.
No, they're not. They're 2-1, and you know they're playing some basketball that makes you kind of go, okay, if you've got Detroit on your upcoming schedule, the last couple seasons, maybe you circled that as a W. This year, you're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to play a good game to get a W there.
Absolutely. All right, so Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Northern Kentucky were the only 2 teams I think that played 2 games. I mean, yeah, Northern Kentucky played Brescia, so obviously they're going to win that one. But they actually had to go to Bellarmine, and Bellarmine gave them kind of a fight too in Louisville. But Northern Kentucky won, and they kind of needed. I feel like this is, and of all the teams that seem to be doing pretty well on the road, Northern Kentucky seems to definitely be in that pole position, which is good for them, especially moving forward.
Yeah, that Bellarmine game was really evenly played statistically.
It really was. Yeah.
If you looked at any of the stats, whether it's turnovers or rebounds or assists or, you know, shooting percent, it wasn't like there was a big advantage. And that's reflected in the final score was, you know, what was it, a 4-point game or something like that?
Yeah, it was 4 points.
What NKU got in that game, though, was 5 guys scored 77 of their 80 points. So they're big guys. It was too much, you know, to stop. You had Wells, Robinson, Goresger, O'Day, and who's the other? Was it Dozier? I can't remember who the other guy was.
Tay Dozier. And but realistically, that's kind of who you expect to score. Ethan Elliott, by and large, is the facilitator. I do not generally expect him to score. I do expect him to get a lot of assists. And then, Darren Horn does not, his bench is relatively short. I mean, it has been. I mean, by and large, you get to get 7 guys in the rotation. That's kind of, he's been playing 7 more than 15 minutes. Donovan Rakoto Nadahari was the other guy who was, but you kind of expect him more to be kind of the defender as opposed, like just like Elliott, you're not expecting those 2 guys to be kind of the producers. But you know, when you got LJ Wells, you got Dan Goresger, you got Cale Robinson, who was in foul trouble for a good chunk of this game, and that almost kind of came to bite him. But Donovan O'Day coming through kind of also helped. Probably could have did a little better. Probably could have done better from beyond the arc because they only shot 32%. But they got what they needed to get out of that game, which is a win.
And a road win at that. Like, that's something that, you know, when you think about, like, just showing, at least to me as a observer of the league, winning games, any D1 game is good. Winning D1 games at home is an expectation. Going on the road, and Bellarmine plays in the equivalent of a modified high school gym, so it doesn't take a whole lot of people to make it a kind of a hostile environment. And in this particular case, Northern Kentucky, they tried to give it away a couple times, but they held on. They did what needed to be done at the end of the game to get the victory. And I'm looking for, as an observer of the league, just wins, road wins, mid-major wins. Like, it's one thing to whoop on Brescia or whoever that was. And you're whooping on Thiel, and you're whooping on, imagine my excitement when I saw that Cleveland State beat Oakland, and then my disappointment when I realized it was
It
Oakland
says
City,
Oakland City, not the Oakland you're thinking of, the
not
other
the Oakland.
Oakland.
It's one thing to do that, but to go on the
And
road and get
also,
a
this
win.
Oakland was also not is not in California either, by the way. I'm not sure where that. Maybe I think it's Indiana, but I can't remember. But
And
definitely not
pretty
in
sure,
California.
pretty sure it's Indiana. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought a good win for Northern Kentucky and a team that just continues to prove the doubters wrong.
Yeah. Eh, so speaking of road wins, Wright State had a shot. They had a shot to get that road win at Marshall. That would have been great. But it's just, I mean, it's amazing how the Horizon League is kind of decided by a grand this week. The fortunes of the Horizon League were decided by about 4 points.
Yeah,
You got
you think about that game too. Like they had that lead late in the game, and I think their
they
6'10"
did.
guy for Marshall hit a pull up three in transition or something. I mean,
Wyatt
frickers.
Fricks, that guy was giving them headaches all day. Well, him and Matt Van Komen, this guy, all he had to do was like stretch his arms high, and he basically he didn't even jump. He just had to just hold up his hands and grab the rebounds because apparently he was his wingspan with his arms stretched out over his head are taller than any of the Wright State players because he got a few rebounds doing that. But Wyatt
I
Fricks is the guy who definitely killed him.
Yeah, Van Coleman, I didn't even notice what he was doing. I was so distracted by his porn mustache, I couldn't even pay attention to how he was playing the game. But yeah,
Like,
Fricks had a
wow, that is definitely some. Oh my God, he reminds me of. Oh my God, the the foreign guy from the movie Semi Pro. That's what he reminded me of.
Bob. I was really concerned that when I used the terminology porn mustache and he started to reference a movie right away, I'm like, no, then we're gonna go off the rails here. We don't
No,
don't
no, no.
be
I'm
rough.
talking about. I'm talking
Yep,
about Semi Pro. Talking
there
about
you go.
Semi Pro. I assume
So
Van Komen can speak English. I'm assuming that. All right.
yes,
Truth. Yeah.
where is he from? Arkansas? Maybe we're not so sure about that. So anyway, as for that game,
I'm
they
not
had the
making
lead.
fun of him. He's gonna step on me. He's like, he's too tall.
He had a pretty huge dunk in the
Yeah.
second half too. That was kind of a backbreaker. A couple things that stood out here though. You had Cooper, 22, 5 and 5 on 9 of 13 shooting, 4 or
Yeah.
5 from deep. He had a really nice game. Again, another really tough environment, and they were right there the whole way. The free throw shooting disparity in this game, I kind of, they were only 4 of 6 versus Marshall 13 of 16. So maybe they're playing 8 on 5 a little bit there. So that's tough in a 2-point loss. And then the thing that I'm actually kind of concerned about is much was made for, Brian Atumnu coming from Merrimack over to Wright State. And he
Yeah.
has entered Amari Davis territory as marquee transfer who's not playing anymore. And so
Yeah, that
a little,
one's yeah.
it's hard to
I'm
figure
a
out.
little weird about that's a little weird to me too. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's because Kellen Pickett has more jump. I don't know. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. That he only gets 4 minutes in a game like this. I will say this because and I know I've alluded to this a few times because in the Scott Nagy era, because Scott Nagy had a super short bench. Clint Sargent isn't afraid of playing 9 guys for sure, and he's got the guys to do it. He clearly does, and you kind of hope that at least one of those shots would one or more of those shots would fall and they're winning by 2 instead of losing by 2. But this is a Wright State team that'll probably take this and take this win and probably move forward in the conference and probably do some good and make me look stupid.
Yeah, I
I'm
still think
okay with
Wright
that.
State. Yeah, Wright State's still a team I think is
Oh, but Wright State has a real problem because they got to play Miami of Ohio, and Miami of Ohio is undefeated.
yeah,
Yikes!
Miami of Ohio is having an amazing year. Travis Steele, the old Xavier coach, has been building that up, and because the previous coach that was there was Jack Owens, I believe, and Jack Owens
Yeah.
is now an assistant at DePaul, and he did okay. But like Miami of Ohio is a good program; they're historically been solid, and Travis Steele has them rolling. But I like it's a regional matchup, and I think that Wright State's is one of those teams like we saw them play tough at Marshall, we saw them play tough at Youngstown State. When they got at home, they absolutely annihilated Green Bay when Green Bay had some momentum going.
Overtime.
To Kent State. So that's a team that you're looking at and going, the record might be slightly deceiving. At the end of the day, you got to win the games, but certainly you see the Raiders on your schedule and you're in for a night. That's all I know, and that's a team that I think will get better because you've got some young pieces playing there. Obviously, we've talked about Cooper a lot here, but I mean that's a freshman guard leading you. Like that guy's not going to get worse; he's going to get better. So
exactly.
Yeah.
He absolutely is.
Wright State's right.
So
I think we got one more T1 game to talk about.
Yeah, we got Oakland and Northern Iowa. Oakland also got hit by the injury bug. No more Nashim Bashir is out for the rest of the year, so that sucks. Also, not a great.
As I say, instead,
yeah.
Yeah. That first of all, that is tough news, and he hadn't necessarily had a great season going, but he was a starter, and so you hate to see a guy get hurt and be out for the year. I'm blaming this loss on you, though, Bob.
Why? What did I do?
Announcers jinx. Brody Robinson, 7 turnovers.
Oh, sorry, Brody, my bad.
Yep, but he had 7. They
sorry,
had 17,
Brody, my bad.
17 turnovers and only shot 40% from the field. So when they didn't turn it over, they didn't really have great shooting output. You're not going to win.
Their 3-pointers were not good either. I mean, they were 1 for 6 in the second half. You're not going to beat a team like UNI at home doing that even a little bit. Nope, can't do it.
Nope, they did not shoot well. They turned the ball over.
Northern Iowa didn't do all that great from beyond the arc either, but they did marginally better, which is probably why they won.
Well, and in that game, they were led by Leon Bond III, who used to play for Virginia. He's from Milwaukee. Shout out to a Milwaukee player. He was an absolute stud, 26 and 7, 9 of 14 for the field. And Leon Bond was not known as a shooter previously, and he's really improved his game. He was 3 of 6 from deep, and he had at least 15 made threes on the season so far. I mean, that guy's gotten really good. That's a pro, and there wasn't an answer for him. It's interesting. Like we see for Oakland, Michael Haug has had a really big impact, but he had 4 turnovers in this game. I think a couple of them were offensive fouls.
Well, he also had 4. He was also in foul trouble for most of the game too, so that didn't help.
No, but they do some interesting.
16 minutes, man. That's not gonna get it done.
They do some interesting things with him that I like to, kind of like when you have that dominant of a big man scoring, like they'll use a horn set and then they'll enter the ball to him with an empty side corner, and then he'll just go to work one-on-one, and it's really like. It's like I kind of love that kind of play call sometimes because it's like here's a guy that is going to score inside, and we're going to run a play for him to score, and you're not going to be able to stop it even though you could scout the play. And I just kind of like those kind of inside the game chess match kind of things where it's like, here we're going to give it to a guy who you can't stop, and you can't stop him, and it's just going to be fun to watch. But unfortunately for him, he had the 4 fouls, 4 turnovers. He was only 3 for he was 3 for 6. So he wasn't out there enough.
Yeah, the foul trouble was not good. Yeah, they had 4 guys with 4, ended the game with 4 fouls. Michael Hogan wasn't the only one. Buru had a problem with that too, and so did Brett White. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because we talk about Oakland, and we talk about how well Oakland has done in certain games, and this is not one of them. This is one of those. This is the same as the performance was about the same as the Eastern Michigan game, and we all know how that went. So, and especially against a UNI team that is again really good at home.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they didn't play their best game because, when you think about Oakland's metrics are typically at top of the league in any of the, whether it's net or KenPom, and they really have benefited from the strength of their schedule. Like going against those tough teams. I think they play Michigan State coming up as well, so they got a fourth top 10 team that they're going to play. And so they've really benefited. You think about like the idea of seeding in the NCAA tournament. It's never too early to think about seeding in the NCAA tournament, but the reason Oakland got that win 2 years ago is they were a 14 seed instead of the 15 or 16 or the play-in 16 that the Horizon has been lately. They actually got up high enough that they had a little bit of a chance. And Oakland is really the only team that their metrics, probably stand out enough to, be higher than a 15 seed if they make it. And it's games like this. You go to Northern Iowa and win this game. Now you start pairing that with, the losses against the really top teams, and you go, okay, that's a team that you have to be afraid of. And instead, it's a loss, and now it hurts their seeding a little bit. I mean, it probably doesn't hurt their metrics because Northern Iowa's a good team, but still sucks that you don't get this. These are the kind of marquee wins that you want as a league, and unfortunately, they didn't get it.
Yeah, well, hey, better luck next time, I suppose. All right. Anything else? I mean, do we really need to talk about Cleveland State whooping on Oakland City? Not that Oakland City, not that other Oakland City.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about any non-D1 games. All I can say for this week is bye-bye Eastern Michigan and Toledo. Thank God the MAC got some additional losses against the Horizon.
No. We have, well, yeah, we're not completely rid of Eastern Michigan yet. Because they still have to go play Wright State. We're not completely rid of them yet. We're close.
Is that at the Nutter Center?
It is at the Nutter Center. Yeah, they're playing. Yeah. Wright State's playing Eastern Michigan at the Nutter Center after they play Miami. Oh, good call.
You know what?
Why are you doing this? This is torture.
But I don't know how this stuff plays out. But I like Wright State in that game. I think Wright State's playing good basketball. Eastern Michigan on the road. I'm taking Wright State in that one, and then we can finally put our nail in the Eastern Michigan coffin because they got enough wins against this league that they shouldn't have gotten. No more. So bye Eastern Michigan.
You gotta go. Leave. So, all right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us this week. So programming note: we are off next week, and then we will be back 2 weeks from 2 weeks from now. Until then, HorizonRoundtable.com. That's where you can find all of our podcast episodes and all of our articles. You can pull us up wherever podcasts are available. You can pull us up on your Amazon or Google devices. So tune in 2 weeks from now. So happy holidays to everybody. And oh, by the way, before we go, I just realized something. Between the 2 weeks that we are here, that this episode and our next episode, we will have passed 10 years for this podcast. 10 years. Good Lord. Can't believe we've been doing this for 10 years. But until next time, which I'm sure we'll discuss the 10 years thing at next episode. But until then, thank you all for listening.